Hello and welcome to Weird Around Illinois. Today we're going to talk again about one of our favorite cryptids, Dogman, and where he might be found and how he might be traveling. Let's get weird. So, if we think about Dogman sightings, there are Dogman sightings pretty much all over the U.S. I think there's only 2 states where there hasn't been a reported Dogman sighting. There have even been some sightings in other countries. At least for me, and I think for a lot of people, we still think of Dogman as a Midwestern monster. If you look at the clusters of sightings, there's a ton in Michigan, there's a lot in Wisconsin, like around Bray Road, the Beast of Bray Road, Ohio, Illinois, Kentucky, Minnesota, Iowa. Basically the heartland of America is where you're seeing Dogman more than anything. And, some of these sightings are really clear werewolf type sightings where you see like a bipedal wolf. Others are just an unexplained howl, and some are downright violent, like the ones on the Kentucky-Tennessee border, the land between the lakes. There have actually been reports of Dogmen killing people.
Wow.
Quite a range of sightings, quite a range of areas, but we're going to focus on mainly the Midwest because that seems to be his major hangout. When we first started putting our Dogman list together last year, when we were starting to talk about where we can find Dogman and where we should be planning our cryptid hunting vacations and such, I came up with this theory, and I thought it was a brilliant theory. It was Dogman migrates like other animals do. In the cold weather, he moves south to warmer climates. In the warm weather, he moves north to cooler climates. It made all the sense in the world. So, like any good scientist, I decided to test my hypothesis. And like any bad scientist, my hypothesis proved to be completely and totally false. If we put a map together of Dogman sightings by season, and what we found was, in the wintertime, there are a few outliers, but majority of sightings were in lower to mid Michigan and Wisconsin and upper Wisconsin, which, if any of you have ever been to upper Wisconsin in winter, it's not warm at all. Spring, we had sightings in lower Wisconsin, upper to middle Michigan. Summer, all over Wisconsin, lower Michigan, upper Illinois, Indiana, Iowa. These are all areas that are pretty hot in the summer. I was expecting in the summertime for these things to be going way up north and be in upper Minnesota and Canada and things like that, but nope. And we finally get into fall, and then we've got middle Wisconsin, upper middle Michigan. So there's absolutely no rhyme or reason to these sightings. They don't fit a migratory pattern, at least by temperature.
It's all just Midwest. As you said, there's no pattern.
Yeah.
And based off of the information that you've kind of said, it seems like Michigan and Wisconsin in general, there are the main 2 anyway.
Yeah, definitely. We have to ask ourselves then, okay, is Dogman moving at all? The argument for Dogman moving is that if he's not moving, it means there has to be separate clusters of Dogmen in Michigan, in Wisconsin, in Indiana, in Illinois. That's a lot of Dogmen. And for there to be a breeding population in each of those states, it's amazing that people aren't seeing them every 5 minutes. That was kind of what made me think of the migratory theory to begin with, that, if there's one family of Dogman or one breeding population of Dogmen and they're moving all over the Midwest, that's a little easier for me to believe.
Yeah, and I think one of you mentioned it before, that there could be different breeds of Dogmen in different areas.
Sure.
During the winter, there's one designed for that kind of area, and there's one for another kind of environment.
Yeah, it's kind of a compromise theory. Maybe there's not a breeding population in every single state where there's sightings, but maybe it's a regional thing. Maybe the upper Michigan, Minnesota Dogman is the white-haired one that hides in the snow better. Maybe there's one in northern Illinois, southern Wisconsin, who looks more like a traditional brown or black wolf, which I guess is a little more believable to me. But if they're not moving due to weather, why are they moving? I mean, assuming again that we don't have populations in each of these sighting locations, even if there's 2 or 3 groups, they still need to be covering a lot of ground to show up in all these places. So is it simply that they're following the food? Are they chasing deer or something?
If there are sightings during the winter at some point, that would chase away all animals and like any way of getting food. Mm-hmm. So I think that idea of having prey, mm-hmm. that's kind of out of the picture.
Mm. So you think if they were just chasing prey, then the ones in the far north would move southward in the winter?
Probably.
I'm thinking maybe there's like a species of dogman that could like survive without food for like a long time. Maybe those are the ones that will like thrive in winter.
So it would hibernate like a wolf, or like a bear?
Yeah, could be.
So that's a possibility. I mean, we could be talking about the animals following the food. We could be talking about hibernation. There's always that mystical possibility we have to throw out there because it is Dogman. What if it involves portals?
Yeah,
interdimensional portal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if portals like don't exist, I don't know where like the mist is coming from. That's one thing that I really can't figure out.
Yeah, the infamous Dogman mist. It seems like the vast majority of Dogman sightings involve a mist. And I've been thinking about that mist, and I realized this isn't just Dogman. This isn't just like over the last 2 or 3 decades that we've been talking about Dogman that this is a thing. If you watch any of the old werewolf movies or read any of the old werewolf stories, it's always a foggy night. It's always the werewolf emerging from the fog or the mist. People have always associated the man-wolf creature with some sort of mist or fog. And I don't think that's by accident.
I think we've seen that with Bigfoot too, haven't we?
In some cases, yeah, there have been reports of Bigfoot involved in mist or fog.
Yeah, but the description of a dark and foggy night for any werewolf or Dogman, that's absolutely true.
Yeah. Even like the Hound of the Baskervilles, the famous Sherlock Holmes story. If we accept that fog could be either a cloak for a portal covering up a visible portal, or the fog itself is a portal, then Dogman could move easily between all of these sites anytime, anywhere. So it would explain why he's popping up all over the Midwest all the time. But if he's not moving by portals, here's another theory for you. I believe he could be using the rivers for transport. Not necessarily like floating along the rivers or anything, but each river forms basically a corridor because you've got woods around rivers usually, and woods cut right through cities and mountains and everything else. So it would be an easy way for him to move from place to place. And let me spell out for you exactly how this superhighway for Dogman would work involving rivers. The big road, the big superhighway, is the Mississippi River. And that one goes all the way from the southern U.S., the Gulf of Mexico, all the way up to Minnesota, upper Minnesota, where we've got Dogman sightings. It feeds the St. Croix River in Minnesota, which, by the way, has a cluster of Dogman sightings around it. It feeds the Chippewa River, the Wisconsin River, and the Rock River in Wisconsin. And those have clusters of Dogman sightings around them. Feeds the Illinois River in Illinois. It feeds the Ohio River, which moves through Illinois into Ohio. All those have Dogman sightings around them. But let's delve into it a little deeper. That St. Croix River I mentioned has sightings around it. Chippewa River in northern Wisconsin has sightings around it. The Wisconsin River has the sightings in central Wisconsin. Then we go to the Rock River. That goes to Horicon Marsh, where we've actually had listeners tell us that there have been sightings, and I've heard about sightings there myself. The Fox River which we've investigated sightings on in McHenry, Illinois, and the White River, which goes to Elkhorn, Wisconsin, Beast of Bray Road. And we've actually walked that White River Trail in Elkhorn, Wisconsin, and found some pretty compelling evidence of Dogman while we were there. Then we look at the Illinois River. That goes to the Fox River, which we've already mentioned. It goes to the Des Plaines River, which leads to suburbs like Wheeling, where we did a Dogman investigation based on a Scary Stories NYC story. And not directly, but through tributaries and connected forest preserves and ponds and such, it actually leads to Salt Creek and Bussey Lake in Elk Grove Village, which we have talked about at length. Lots of Dogman activity in that area. And then we've got our old friend the Ohio River, which feeds the Great Miami River, which leads to Dayton, Ohio. The Scioto River, which leads to Columbus, Ohio. A lot of Dogman sightings in Ohio, along with Bigfoot sightings as well. And the Ohio River takes us all the way to the Appalachian Mountains and West Virginia. And you guys saw the Appalachian Mountains and how squatchy and dogman-y that area looks. And we've all watched Mountain Monsters, and we know just how many times those guys seem to be going after a dogman-like creature in the West Virginia area. Mm-hmm. Whether they call it the blood wolves or the smoke wolves or whatever.
Especially since there's like so much isolation there.
Yeah.
I mean, not a whole lot of people go there in the woods.
No, there are some remote areas out there along the Ohio. So again, I mean, with all these rivers connecting all these Dogman sightings, it just seems obvious to me that if Dogman is traveling, well, I won't call it migrating because it doesn't seem to be seasonal, but if he's traveling, he's using the rivers to do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very simple way of traveling. Now I think about it, it'd be very hard even for a Dogman that's super strong to be traveling that far. Mm-hmm. But depending on any information that he's moved that quickly through different rivers in different directions, mm-hmm. I guess it's possible.
Yeah, he could be swimming, he could be floating, or he could just be running along the bank, taking advantage of the cover provided by the woods that always seem to surround rivers. And that's the thing, even when a river runs through the heart of a city, there's always that strip of woods around it. So it could help them get through places like Columbus, Ohio, or Dayton, Ohio, or Chicago without being seen by 1,000 people. The other thing that rivers provide is they provide food. I mean, all sorts of prey animals come to the river to drink and to travel, and it would allow Dogman to have a never-ending food source.
So if other animals use rivers to travel and get different resources, why won't another animal do it? Assuming that Dogman is a part of that food chain almost.
Right. Yeah, it makes perfect sense. The other thing, I think one of you brought this up another time when we were talking about this, the idea that there are some clear spots around the river where somebody could sneak a glance at Dogman if he happened to come by at just the right time.
Yeah, there was one area that had a river that we investigated. I can't remember which it was.
I think it was the Fox River.
Okay, yeah, so the Fox River, we were near that. Mm-hmm. It was nighttime, obviously, because it wasn't that easy to see, but we could easily hear the river anyway.
Yeah. And
you went over to look at it, mm-hmm. and go down to the river, and you were clearly able to go down there, so why wouldn't anybody else be able to, like, just so happen to see a Dogman in that spot? It was an open spot.
Yeah, definitely a possibility, but remember, I went down there with a night vision camera and a special light that allowed me to see eye shine. Mm-hmm. The average person, maybe fishing at night or just walking along the river at night, Dogman could cross within 5 feet of him and he wouldn't see him.
Okay, yeah, at night you're definitely correct. But is there a chance that Dogman could be traveling through that area specifically during the day?
It's possible, but I doubt that he would. I would think that Dogman would be smart enough to use the cover of night when he's moving through well-populated areas. I mean, otherwise, again, I think people would be seeing him all the time.
Wonder if people will see him more like during the nighttime when he's just out and about.
Mm-hmm.
then I don't know.
Well, remember when we did our facts about Dogman, we discovered that most Dogman sightings occur between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m.
True.
So that kind of lends credence to that idea that he is moving at night.
Okay. Yeah, and I could see how it would be more willing to travel through these open spots when it's not nearly as easy to spot him, as you said before.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess that makes sense.
It doesn't mean that we couldn't spot him, though. If we were to set up a night investigation on one of those spots, or if we were to put a game camera in one of those spots with night vision capability, and just see what runs through that clearing when it thinks nobody else is around. That might be a great way to catch Dogman on camera, actually.
I kind of just noticed a lot of Dogman sightings during the day. People kind of see them like deep in the woods.
Mm-hmm.
But nighttime, that's when they tend to see them like when they're driving. So it seems like there really is a difference between day and night with those sightings.
Yeah, maybe Dogman stays hunkered down in the woods during the day to stay safe and stay away from people, and then maybe he does his traveling at night, and that's when he moves along the roads and rivers and such.
Yeah.
We've definitely got some things to think about. Knowing how Dogman moves, or how at least we suspect Dogman moves, will only help us in our quest to get a look at him for ourselves. We will consider all these things we've talked about today, and we will keep an open mind to anything you all have to say about it. If you've had a Dogman encounter, or if you have a theory about Dogman you'd like to share, we would love to hear about it. So, as always, thank you for listening, and thank you for subscribing.